September 30th, 2020, the Pixel 5 was released to the world. It was hot off the heels of the Pixel 4 the previous year, but Google decided to make a few changes last minute. They weren't able to secure the most powerful processor, the biggest flagship of the year, so they ended up getting a different chip altogether. It was a Snapdragon 765G, and at the time, it was not a flagship. It was already a mid-range chip in 2020. So the question is the Pixel 5 still worthy in 2022? Let's find out. The Pixel 5 camera was the same camera they used in the 4 and the 3 ever since the Pixel 2. And yet every year the Pixel line is still the king of stills photography. So how is that possible? The phone is not even made of aluminum on the outside. It's not a glass sandwich from what we usually see on today's phones. So what if you want an even smaller phone, an even lighter phone? What if still photography is all you really need? Well, I'm here to tell you that the Pixel 5 is a pretty good choice. The Pixel line is most known for their camera power. Here are some photo samples. And here are some photos to compare against the S22 Plus, which I have on hand. Now moving on to battery life. The Pixel 5 comes with a 4080 milliamp battery inside this phone. Now that's a pretty big deal because this phone is tiny, and the S22 baseline model, which is almost the same size, just slightly bigger than this phone, has a 3700 milliamp. Battery life on this phone is solid. The Snapdragon 765G was chosen because of its battery consumption. It's a battery champ, and for a small body, every minute counts. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're doing simple tasks, phone calls, text messages, Instagram, Snapchat, you are going to have no problem with this. Now gaming is a whole different thing, and that might use a little bit more battery, but for normal tasks, you'll be fine. Let's talk about the processor a little bit. The processor that came with the Pixel 5 was not the flagship chip at the time, but a mid-ranger at best. The Snapdragon 765 chip. It garnered a lot of hate before the phone even came out, because people were obsessed with the specs list. Specs are important, don't get me wrong, but you know what's even more important? How this phone does in real life situations. I have not run into any issues using very updated apps in my day-to-day life using this phone. I've run into zero issues. This phone keeps up. It's still just as smooth as it was the first day I got it, which is strange because you'd think a processor this old would struggle a little bit, but no. The software is so good. The Pixel software, Google does a great job optimizing their software with their hardware, and this thing runs perfectly. Now what good is a phone if you don't make phone calls, right? Call quality is pretty good. As you know, this Pixel 5 has an under display speaker, so the whole phone basically vibrates and the sound transfers through it. Basically it's vibrating the front glass, and the vibrations and the sounds are going to your ear, so it seems like the phone's shaking a lot. Now some people hate that, some people don't mind it. It does sound a little tinny, which would bug maybe audiophiles, but for normal use, making a call, it's fine, you know, it's alright. Now with heavy intensive games, you are going to run into a little bit of issues, but I think it's going to hold up quite nicely. Loading times might be a little slower for games, but you'll get there, you know, you'll get there. So what's the best thing about buying a phone that's been out for several years? You can get it much cheaper than it was when it launched. When the Pixel 5 was released, it came out at $699, and even at that time, people thought it was a little too expensive. I did too. I think $599 would have been perfect for this phone. But even today, you can get the phone for maybe $450 on Amazon. Even today, you can get the phone for $459.99 new on the Google Store on Amazon.com, which I will link in the description below. If you're fine with the used market, you can get this phone for about $250 to $350 on Swappa, depending on the condition. So, do I think this is a great phone for 2022? I do. I love the size of this phone. It's still great. I love this build quality. It feels so good in the hand. And it's such a great size, you know. The camera's still great up to today's standards, and just very little to complain about for a phone that came out almost 3 years ago. So if you want to save a little bit of money and you need a smaller phone, or you need a backup phone, or you just want to play with it, yeah, I would totally recommend it. This is a solid phone, and I think you should get it if that's something you're looking into. The Pixel 5, it's my recommendation.